brought to you by Bethel School of Technology. Learn more at betheltech.net/Ken Coleman. All right, we got another company that's its leadership is acting like, scorn teenagers. This is, I'm not trying to be critical. I'm not trying to be unkind. Just let me call it like it is. Dell is the latest company to just come up with a policy that I think looks so good on a whiteboard. And then they don't actually run it by some people. Like what I'm about to describe, Alex, I think could have been solved if they would have walked out of the room with the whiteboard and they'd have called 10 people from different divisions of the company that aren't in leadership and said, hey, can you join us in the room here? We want to run this idea by you. I really believe it could have been solved. I do think it's that simple. But again, one of the things that I'm going to always attempt to do on this program is show leaders the bridge between policy and people. My gosh, one of the ways to just make people feel insignificant and drive good people away is to come up with policies that are anti-people. Because a great business idea that is anti-people makes it a bad idea. Here we go. This is the story. This is a Business Insider article. Dell is the computer company, been around a long time. And Dell had a hybrid working culture before it became cool. In other words, before the pandemic struck. For over a decade, or right around a decade, Dell has allowed hybrid working. So hybrid working is, if you're not familiar with this, some days out of the office and some days in the office. Well, just last month, in February, Dell introduced a new return to office mandate with punitive measures for those who want to stay at home. Under the new policy, Dell staff were told that from May on, so they got a couple months to kind of swallow this, that employees will be classified two ways. One as hybrid, two as remote. Hybrid workers will be required to come into an approved office a minimum of 39 days per quarter. So that's about 3 days a week. Now, staff can opt to be fully remote. They can self-select and go, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to be remote. But, this option, the fully remote option, has a downside. If you classify and decide to work 100% remote, you will not be considered for a promotion and you will not be able to change roles. Hey, you want to work remote? Good on you. We're okay with it. Oh, by the way, you're stuck. You will not be promoted and you cannot make a change internally. This is mind-blowing to me. It's, and again, so, okay, I have no problem with Dell saying that we are not for remote work, because that's what this is saying. It's passive-aggressive, but why be passive? Well, let's be aggressive. What Dell should say is, we are no longer going to allow remote work. And we know that that's not a good thing for some of you, and some of you will be leaving us. And so if you were self-selecting to leave, we want to create a transition plan to where we don't interrupt the productivity of the organization. And we can replace you, and we have a plan. And honestly, we're grateful for your service. We understand that you want to work remote only. And so we want to come up with a transition plan to where you leave well. Now, that to me is a very mature leadership decision. Smart, too. Now, that's their prerogative. I'm okay. I wouldn't argue with you for 2 seconds because I think remote work, hybrid work, in the office work, I think that comes down to culture and systems. So culture are shared behaviors, and then the systems are how we keep shared behaviors moving and congruent and all that stuff. So I'm okay with that. But what they're doing here is passive aggressive, and they're essentially just saying, we don't want you around. They're essentially going, if you self-select as remote, good on you. You're dead to us. In fact, in a program meeting with the team, I wrote this down. It's literally like me and Stacy saying to my 3 kids, if you don't do such and such and such, you can live here, but we're not going to love you. I think it's the equivalent of that. We have a set of rules in our house. And if the kids don't live by the rules, what do? Obviously, there's consequences. There's conversations. What we don't do is say, I've talked to you about this 3 or 4 times. And at this point, your mom and I are basically saying, if you don't completely comply with these things, we're not going to kick you out, but we're not going to love you. And you're not going on vacation with us. And we're not going to help you with gas in your car, and you're not going to get to, it's that kind of idea, because if a parent were to do that, what are you saying to your kids there? You're going, if it's not totality of my way, then go ahead and hit the highway. So that's what Dell is saying. They're going, hey, if you want to be remote, great, you can do it. You will not get promoted, and you can't even change your position. So welcome to purgatory. Now, what kind of message does that send to everybody? All right, so let's look at the groups. So presumably there are people who are full-time remote, and they're going, oh, you're just strong-arming me here. You are telling me to leave. You're telling me that you don't want me around, that there's no value attached to me unless I'm in the office the days you want me in the office. Let me tell you something. I don't care if you disagree with me or not. You're wrong. I'm right. That's what the message is. The message is, you are only valuable to us if you do things the way that we want you to do it. That's what it's saying. Okay? And we're not talking about normal policies here. We're saying you were doing it this one way for a long time, and now you're making the switch, and that's your prerogative. But if you tell somebody that you give them an option, but the option is staying stuck with no growth, then my point is you're devaluing them, because there's no real decision for them. Presumably, some will go, all right, well, that's fine by me. I'm great in this position. I like my 401k. I got 8 years left. Okay, I get that. That's one group. Now, there's another group that goes, wait a second, I've been super effective, and I've been remote this whole time, and I could consider it, but gosh, this feels yuck. Sure, I'll do it. I don't want to leave because I want to grow. But it just feels yuck because you didn't sit down with them and go, hey, here's what we want. And so I just don't think that Dell went about this the right way, because I think the right way to do it is to say, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. Here's how we're going to make this favorable to you. And we value you, but we also value being in the office for X amount of days. Here's why. You may not agree, but we want to make this transition really easy and healthy for you. And we value you. We also understand if you don't want to do this, that's your prerogative too. And we want to make sure that you leave well and we break up well. But this just kind of, this, ha-ha, ha-ha, ha-ha. It's what it feels like to me, doesn't it? It's like, we got you. You can do it. Ha-ha. but you're not going to like it. And you will do as I say. I mean, look, that's just too authoritative. That's never going to work. It's never going to develop culture. It's never going to develop trust. It's never going to develop transparency. And I think it's good. Even the people who stay, I think they're going to feel gross about it. And I would suggest to you that we're going to hear about this, that they're going to regret that decision in the future. So there you go. Treat people like people. Don't come up with a policy and then figure out how to deal with the people part. It's got to be in the beginning. Launch your tech career today at betheltech.net/Ken Coleman.